If you're scared of heights, ride at night. Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. And we have over 30 years of motorcycling experience and 15 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share what we've learned with you.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes, other tips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we'll ask you to log in and sign up to our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Please join the BMR crew today, and we'll put a link in the show notes. This next segment, or the first one of the day, is about motorcycle gear reviews and tips, and we call it the toolkit. This is a great episode. It's about the tail of the dragon, but really when you're riding some of these roads like Tail of the Dragon, Todd, you really want to, you're taking this great ride, you want to have great gear. So I guess just start off by talking about riding jackets and pants. Now, not everyone goes and does that, I think, but really, if you get into the motorcycle riding gear of jackets and pants, they come in two types and two fabrics. You got kind of warm weather riding, cold weather riding, and then kind of all season. And then the materials are either usually textile or leather. And I just say, you want to be comfortable. I think the first thing that happens is you have an expectation of what you feel like motorcycle gear is. Some people like leather, and that's cool, and some people don't, and then they end up in textile. I feel like it's like you want leather or you want not leather.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's a great option. Leather is a great option. It's usually a little more expensive, but it lasts forever if you take care of it. It's really, the motorcycle leathers are made for that. Even though they seem like they might be hot, everything has venting. So there's all kinds of zippers and places that you can open and close based on the temperatures of the day. And the textile stuff is really the same. I would say the difference really is you kind of have regular gear that's textile or you have mesh. So there's a lot of mesh. Mesh is friends with the warm climates. And I don't know, the solid is better for the cooler times. I have both. I pretty much use mesh all the time when we ride. I mean, we don't ride when it's super cold. And then I'm riding a big old honkin' Goldwing that, pretty much nothing penetrates it anyway. So some of the all-season gear can be leather or textile. It just tends to be some of the higher-end products. I think that's when you start looking at some of the nice Harley leather gear, or you look at the some of the stuff that's the single jacket rider suits from some of the bigger names. But we have a full blog post out there with pictures and details. You can kind of dig in and see what you like the look of, and what you want. It's really a personal touch kind of thing. Like I said, I'm a big guy. I ride hot no matter what. I like the mesh. I used to ride with shorts and mesh. I've moved to pants and mesh top. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of the one-piece suit too, but I've never gone that far. So
yeah, and the other thing about the mesh jackets, the textile jackets, a lot of them come with like elbow pads, shoulder,
armor.
back, armor.
Yep.
There's armor built into them, and even with that being mesh, they still keep you pretty cool. And there's
They do.
lots of vents, so that's what I use.
Yeah.
Kind of a mesh jacket with the armor built in, and generally, we're riding in warmer temperatures most of the time, and I've just got a t-shirt on underneath.
Yeah.
And, that seems to work. I don't have the mesh pants yet, but, jeans for me right now, but at some point I might switch over.
And I would just say also, one of the things I would say, I really like mesh, and that's what I ride with, but the negative of it is, you can't ride it when it's wet.
Yeah.
It gets wet, and then it just gets soaked, and I feel like the stuff that's non-mesh, leather, and the textile, it does a little better job of getting rid of the rain. So I don't know. I've thought about that a lot, I guess. And I'd really like to try some of the medium gear and maybe have bulk up on the layers a little bit. So I want to do a little more research in that, but some of that will be in the post that we have. So secondly, gloves. I love gloves. I have at least 8 pairs of gloves. I like leather gloves unless it's raining. You got to get something that works for you, but I love full finger gloves. And I love to get them leather that wore in. I don't know what, I love the feeling when they're like I know they're my gloves. So that's why I prefer leather with most of the gloves. And then I have a couple pair of rain gloves that aren't, but I'm honestly thinking about going with the surgical glove method. So
so I don't have any. I only have leather gloves, and I basically have 2, maybe 3 pairs. 2 are full finger, and 1 is fingerless. I generally ride with the fingerless ones because I often have my phone mounted on my bike, and with gloves on, I can't touch my phone. It won't react. So I use the fingerless gloves a lot. But my gloves aren't waterproof, so when it does start raining, the only way I can keep my hands dry is what you just mentioned. Is I get out, some surgical gloves. Some people use them or buy the food preparation gloves. It's those real thin. I don't know if they're latex or just kind of a rubber or plastic material, but super thin. You can carry 20 pair. In a space about that big. But I just throw those under my leather gloves, and then my hands don't get wet. And then I take the time to try and dry the gloves at night. But that's the way I make my gloves waterproof.
And that actually works well in the cold too. That'll help. It'll keep your hands a little bit warmer too. So so gloves. There's about as many types of gloves as you can imagine, from gauntlet to short to the wrist to the fingertip. You really got to try some and see what's good for you. I think once you find a style, I'd highly recommend just get a nice pair of gloves. They really matter. Some have padding in them if you have a little more vibration. It's worth the investment. You're really riding in them all the time. So how about foot gear, boots?
I recommend getting a good set of boots. Don't do what I did. I bought some off a website based on other people's recommendations or their reviews, and without trying them on, I got them, and then I went on a trip. They were fine for sitting on the bike. Everything about them was fine. I liked the way they lace up, and there was a clip and all that kind of stuff. But for walking around, they were horrible. Just a real pain to walk around in for the day. It's almost like I want to get off the bike and switch into my tennis shoes or something. So if you can, get your boots plenty of time before your trip and walk around with them, or go someplace where you can go to your local bike shop and find some boots and walk around with them as well as ride with them a little bit. But good boots make a difference.
They do. I will say too, based on your bike, there's a big difference in bikes. You got adventure bikes, completely different ride, and cruisers and touring bikes. Not every boot works for every style of bike.
True.
I know when I was riding standards that were a little more, like sporty, it made a big difference, and there's special boots for those types of motorcycles, and you really do have to, it makes a difference. Some of the boots that work great on a cruiser does not work on those bikes.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because
what's the difference?
What it has to do with is the way that your foot flexes, because in that standard bike or a sport bike, your feet are behind you. As opposed to you having a knee that's straight up and down on your foot.
Okay.
So it has to do with, like, you want to have a little more, a lot of those will have like a flex point at the ankle, so that when you flex that foot, that's what the difference is. So because otherwise you're fighting the boot and you're fighting that whole like upper. That's the reason. So it's a big difference. You'll know.
I'm just going to get a whole new set of boots. I'm going to make sure I try them and walk in them.
And I bought a really nice set of work boots that happen to work great. They're a USA made boot called Thorogood. Huge. I mean, they're expensive. They're not cheap, but I love them. The leather's broken in. They're waterproof. Throw the booties on the boots and you're good to go when it rains. So, but check footwear is important. I mean, imagine that you have to put your foot down when you're going because something bad happens. You want to get them covered. I know anytime you're taking any of the motorcycle riders safety classes, it's mandatory that you have your ankles covered. And the reason for that is because one of the first things that's going to happen if you go down on your bike is your ankle or foot is going to be on the ground. And having a nice thick piece of leather or textile that's really designed for that is key. So don't skimp on boots, gear, or gloves or jackets. I mean, they're really just important.
And do they need to have a metal toe?
They don't have
Steel
to.
toe? No? Okay.
The ones I have a composite toe. It's plastic. It's just a little bit of protection. But really, the big problem you're going to end up having if you wreck, and a friend of ours, Chris, had this happen, but you go low side, your foot goes under there, and it tries to turn your foot around. And it will sometimes. So you just got to be careful. But we have a breakdown of all three of those different things on posts on Best Motorcycle Roads. We'll put those in the show notes too. So
Ride-wise, this is the section where we focus on planning and safety tips. And we talked about pre-trip maintenance in episode 3. If you missed it, go back and check that out. It's a really important step of any trip. And then route planning. With a trip like the Tail of the Dragon, you want to really get a good idea of the day and what the road has to offer. Watch some videos of people that have ridden the road.
Yeah,
that'll give you a really good idea what's in store for you.
We usually watch 2 videos the nights before we watch motorcycle crash videos.
Right.
Just in general, and then it's good to review those maps a little bit and just say, hey, half the day we're here, half the day we're here, and it kind of just puts your mind straight with it. So
yeah, it does. In pacing and group riding dynamics, you really want to consider the pace when you're riding in a group, especially when you have people that are new to riding in groups. Maybe they've got a lot of riding experience, but they've never ridden in a group. And I can tell you from my experience, I had ridden motorcycles for 10 or 12 years, 15 years before I ever rode in a group. And for the first time riding in a group, all of a sudden, all I could focus on for some reason was my distance from, behind the person in front of me and my distance in the lane. Am I in the right side or am I in the left side? Am I doing the stagger correctly? And, am I getting outside of my little lane? And you stagger so that if the group comes to a quick stop, at least you can, someone can pass you or,
right.
So there's a good reason for it. But I tell you, when you haven't done that kind of riding before, it's nerve-wracking. And I remember after my first day just kind of being mentally shot. Like I didn't even really pay attention to the sights around me because all I was doing is worried about that stagger. And am I in the right part of the lane? Am I too close? Am I too far? And so I would say take your time. And if you've got new riders, kind of talk to them about that. Say, hey, look, yes, it's important, but don't focus all your energy on just that.
Well, I think too, like when we're doing the regular riding part, we keep the stagger when we can. When you get on technical roads like the Tail of Dragon, some of these other ones we're going to talk today, like that kind of goes out the window. Like don't worry about that at all. In fact, let's just go single file. Let's just be safe. You ride at your level. Like you see it happening sometimes where it just feels like that person is almost riding too hard, and it's like, if you're not comfortable, don't ride crazy, like it's okay, tell them come around or, people will wait for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing at Tail of the Dragon, the tendency, and I've done, caught myself doing it is, it's so windy. It's so technical that, you almost want to push yourself and challenge yourself, say, all right, let's see how we do, and let's see if I can do this. But to ride 600-700 miles to get to the Tail of the Dragon just to crash and wreck your bike, it's just not worth it. Just take your time.
Yeah.
And, if someone is pushing you and wanting you to speed up, just pull over or get to the side and let them come
wave
around
them by.
you. Yeah, wave them by.
Yep, you bet.
There's a few places on Tail of the Dragon you can kind of just get off the road and let people by. And a lot of times cars will do that because they have to go a little slower. But yeah, I would say pace yourself, and on Tail of the Dragon, you're pretty much going to stay single file, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing goes for mindset, physical readiness. I mean, I think all of us can go out and ride a day of riding, come back, be a little sore and be okay. But like when you start to chain these days together, you start to really feel it. And you really need to be careful. I think we talk about it a lot when we stop, just hydrate, just get more water, just rest more. I mean, we're pretty good about not staying up crazy late, but you got to get that sleep and you can get something to eat. Like you kind of forget sometimes you get on a bike and we got Twizzlers in the back of Mike's bag, and pretty soon you haven't had anything decent but sugar and and Red Bull. But but just I think mentally preparing yourself for that days when you're going to hit those really hard roads is a good idea too.
Yeah, and respecting the road. You know, we're talking about some of the most beautiful roads in the United States, but they can be dangerous.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now it's a story segment we call the mile marker, and it's about the Tail of Dragon and kind of the roads that intersect with that. So I don't know, like you hate to use the word pilgrimage, but really, I mean, the Tail of Dragon is some call it the Mother Road, some call it the best road, one of the best 5 roads in the world.
Destination, yeah.
The destination, but it is a journey. It's not just, your run-of-the-mill road. I don't know. It's a cool challenge, I think, for every rider. It's located in the Smoky Mountains, between Tennessee and North Carolina. It gets its name from the shape of the road. It kind of, if you look at it, zoomed out, it does kind of look like the back of a dragon's tail. I think the official name is US Route 129, and it's classically 318 curves and 11 miles. I don't know, like, you said it a little bit, you get into it, you kind of forget you're on a bike. You kind of like, I don't know, it's weird, but I don't know, it's just a flowing, and you just have to experience it. It's exhilarating.
It is. And not only is it 318 curves and 11 miles, what's so unique about the road is there's no intersections, there's no driveways, there's no merges that, come up into the road or go off the road. So, once you start that 11-mile section, you're on it until you're done.
Yeah.
And I don't forget that I'm on a bike. I mean, it's you got to pay attention on that road. But, I remember if you get even close to the center lane, the center line, excuse me, and there's so many blind corners there. Someone's going to be coming in your lane.
Right.
Believe me, they're going to cut those inside lanes, and someone's going to be heading towards you. So I stay kind of the middle if I can, or even to the right lane, right side of the lane.
Well, and with a bike, you're laying down, and it's like, oh yeah, when you're sitting up, you're taking up a third of a lane, right?
Yeah.
But like when you start to lay down, all of a sudden now we're in half a lane. All of a sudden your helmet's on the other side.
Right.
All of a sudden the Ford F-150 comes, and you kiss the headlight.
Yeah.
So like you do have to be super careful, and like you said, it's notoriously someone will come into your lane when you're riding, and it's a little scary, and you
almost
just
guaranteed.
better be prepared for it.
Yeah.
So, well, tell us about your first time on the Dragon, Todd. Like maybe what do you think, or what do you remember?
Oh gosh, it was exhilarating. We started at the Deals Gap restaurant and kind of area there. I remember seeing the Tree of Shame.
Yep.
Which is this giant tree they've erected and hung all the parts of all the bikes that have crashed
that they find
laying along the road. Yeah. Luckily, there's no body parts hanging up there, but there's pieces of bikes and helmets and tires and jackets and gloves and all kinds of crap, and it's huge. I'm surprised that thing can hold it all, but and I just remember once we got going on it, I just couldn't believe the amount of corners, and I remember thinking to myself, who would ever build this road? Like what was this built for? But they had to follow along the mountainside, ridge. So I just remember it being one of the most amazing roads up to that point that I'd ever been on.
Yeah, I agree. I've been on the Dragon 3 times, I think in 2012, 2015, and 2020. It was intimidating the first time for me.
Yeah.
I was riding an old bike, 78 Goldwing, and I don't know. It was fun, but also interesting. I like that bike. Actually, probably handles better than most bikes that I've had. But yeah, so we're kind of in the middle, I guess, it's technically, I guess, at the end of Tennessee 116, right? Or 129. Sorry, US Route 129 is Tail of the Dragon. So it's technically Deals Gap, North Carolina is kind of that spot where you're thinking of. Mm-hmm. So there's a general store. It's the Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort.
Yeah.
So it has a general store, which is cool. Anything you need, most things you don't. There's a Dragon's Den Grill. Now, I don't think we ever ate there when you've been there. The first time we went there, we had a burger. It was cool. Yep. It was good. Tree of Shame.
I drank a lot of coffee there, I remember one time.
And then they also offer actually motel and camping for motorcycle only. And so that's kind of a cool thing, too, to just be right in the middle of it. But that's Deals Gap, North Carolina. But yeah, there's also a lot of roads that are around there. But I was just trying to think of things that I remember when we were there. And I remember one time we were sitting at one of your favorite spots, I think, at the Fontana Dam.
Oh, yeah.
And this old guy, and man, I mean, I say old guy now, but I bet the guy was 67 years old. And he pulls up on a KZ-1000, one of the old, iconic, classic Kawasaki motorcycles. And the thing I will not forget is the helmet. Because he pulls up and it's like a golden speckled helmet. I mean, he had to buy that with the bike, with the bubble front. He's like, how far am I away from Deal's Gap? It's like, you're on your way, man. It was just the coolest thing. I don't know. When I think about the Tail Dragon, I think about that old guy. I wish I would have got his name because I didn't. But man, he had a leather that he bought. I swear to God, he bought that leather that day. He bought that helmet that day, and he bought that bike.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, your favorite spot that's right there?
Yeah, you mentioned the Fontana Dam.
Yeah.
It's nicknamed the Fugitive Dam because they did use it to film The Fugitive, if you remember that scene. Now, in the movie, they kind of expand it, make it look
No way.
It's bigger than the Hoover Dam, but it's kind of a smallish dam, but it's, you can tell it was shot there. It's a great place to stop.
Yep.
It's right along, the way to get to Tail of the Dragon, and it's a great place to take some pictures and just take a little rest before you actually, take the tail.
And the Deal's Gap is a great place to stop, but it's usually busy. I mean, it's hustle, it's bustle. And so I know a couple times we've moved over there to that Fontana Dam because people stop, take a picture, and move on.
Yeah.
And it's a nice place to stop and just kind of take five.
Yeah.
And it's just right there.
I was just thinking, too, you like the place across the street from...
I do.
From
Killboy.
Yeah, Killboy.
Yeah. And then one thing we didn't mention, and another one of the favorite things that you and I both have, is there's a lot of people along Tail of Dragon that are set up there every day and take pictures.
Yeah.
So you want to have, if you're going to go down there, you can have a great picture taken of you riding that road, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, these are professional photographers.
Right.
They've picked these perfect spots. They know how to focus the camera. They have great cameras.
Yeah.
And all day long they take pictures. And if you want a great picture of yourself riding your bike, coming through a corner and leaning, they do the best job. They do such a great job. And you go on their website after you've ridden the road, and you just find the date and time that you rode the road, and all the pictures are in sequence.
Yeah.
And you just order them through their website. I always buy a bunch of pictures because where else can I get a picture of myself riding my bike?
Right.
And I put those on
And
my
they're so
Facebook
good,
page.
like you said. They're really good pictures.
Such good action shots, and focused, and I'm happy to give them $25 or whatever whatever it costs.
Well, and they have all kinds of signs, shirts, stickers, the whole works there. Good people. You can check out their website too, and they have a lot of cool stuff. So, so then I was looking and just trying to think of all the places that kind of dovetail in with the dragon, like and I'll say this too is like one of the things, like just really do your due diligence when you're going, get that planning underway, because there's so many great roads like that touch or really close to touch and tail.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Chirrahalla Skyway.
Yep.
What's significant about that? I'm trying to remember.
Well, that one is just part of the Cherokee and Nottahala National Forest. It's nothing super specific. I think it was just been there for a long time. It was kind of one of the original like paths that people used.
Yeah.
That goes from Tellico Plains to Robinson, North Carolina. Just stunning views, I think, is one of the things there with that one. And then I think one of your other alternate favorites.
Well, one of my other favorites is the Devil's Triangle.
Right.
I love that road. It's located up on, was it Oak Ridge, Oliver Springs?
Those
like
two
that?
little towns, just a little north of Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah. It's really on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And if you're afraid of heights, I'm not sure I would recommend this road. However, if you ride it at night and you have a friend that's with you and he
Turk, we're talking about you.
he can't see that he's riding on the edge of a cliff, then that's a good time to ride it. But it's super scenic, and the switchbacks are incredible.
Yep.
We rode it at night, and then we rode it later in the day, once in each direction.
Yeah.
You almost have to do it that way, just see different things.
Yep. So the technical triangle is 44 miles long, but the kind of root of it, I think they kind of, Devil's Triangle is a cool name, but Tennessee 116 is really that, like the two pieces of the triangle. 26 and a half miles. It's a challenging road.
Yeah. That
double switchback that drops about 45, 50 feet is stunning, especially at night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then at the end, at one end of that road is the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Yep.
It's no longer a penitentiary. And I remember the first time we visited there.
It was
like
2015.
2015? Yep. We went there and it was overgrown. It was not being used. It was just, it was
just there.
High fences and the razor wire and all that kind of stuff. And, you could kind of walk around the fence and look in, but that was it. Now, this last time we were there, completely changed. They have a brewery, they have a restaurant, they have a distillery, they have an outdoor concert venue, they do tours. It's cool, though. I mean, it was great. We went in.
We got to go there.
Yeah, we had lunch, and stopped in the distillery, and, yeah.
I didn't get to go.
We did a tour. So. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Hey, another road we got to mention is the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah.
469 miles.
Yeah.
And the cool fact about the Blue Ridge Parkway is it's no other road crosses over the top of the Blue Ridge Parkway.
All exits down.
All exits are down, or entrances are from the bottom up. And, it's the highest road, at that point. And we've never ridden the whole thing. We've, maybe covered 150 miles of it, but it's gorgeous. So make sure you hit that one.
And it's literally defines the Smoky Mountains. I mean, especially if you get there in the morning, you're going to see it, that smoke rising up. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So Foothills Parkway, I'm not sure if you rode that one or not before.
I don't remember riding that one.
But one of the cool things, and if you can only catch a part of it, on the south side of this section of that road, I think might be some of the best views of the Smoky Mountains. It's just, it's what you would imagine to be a perfect picture with a road in the Smoky Mountains. Gotcha. So that's a good one there. And then
I know Moonshiner 28. Yeah, that's a great road. It's got another name.
Yeah, I didn't know that
28
until I was doing some research here. Hellbender 28 or Moonshiner 28.
Yeah. And what's the story about this road?
It's it's just supposedly what they ran moonshine on this road and they were being chased. So I think whether it's true or not, I'm sure they're making moonshine in the Rocky or the Smoky Mountains. But
gotcha.
Yeah, so.
This podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there, but you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube. Roadside Q&A. This interactive segment is where we answer your questions and we take any suggestions you have for topics. And then we'll provide insights and advice based on our years of planning trips and riding experiences. And we have a question.
Hey.
So John asked us about where we're from and what kind of bikes do we ride and how long we've been riding. And, because we haven't really talked about that yet.
Yeah, we kind of threw a brag in there that we're great at it, but we never really prove it, right?
Yeah. So I started riding in 1988, I guess. Well, actually, I learned before that. I maybe learned in 85 when I was in college. I had a roommate that was really into motorcycle riding and another friend across the hall that rode motorcycles. And between the two of them, I started riding and, they kind of taught me a few things. And then as soon as I graduated college, one of my very first purchases was a motorcycle. And, I bought a motorcycle right away and got my license and just kind of incrementally gotten bigger bikes.
Yep.
And then, of course, when you guys got bikes, I think that's when we started riding, taking group rides and things like that. And it's just been fun ever since. And knock on wood, I've never had an accident.
John also asked where we're from. You're from Illinois.
Oh, yeah,
originally.
Sorry.
I'm from Iowa. But I grew up riding dirt bikes just in the yard, I guess is when I started. And then kind of had a gap. And then when you guys were getting bikes, all right, it's time to get a bike. So I probably cycled through a few more miles of bikes than you guys. So I've had a little bit of everything and tried it out. And I think now we're kind of all settling really close to either Harley is one of our guys that rides, and then we pretty much all ride Gold Wings now. So love it.
Yeah, and we're this is being based out of Solon, Iowa.
Yep.
And so kind of...
That's where we spur out of.
Yeah, south central...
Southeast
Iowa. And so when we're talking about where we're going and where we're coming from, that's where we're leaving from.
That's kind of destination.
Yeah, we're starting there.
Yep. So I have one accident, small incident with a deer, but we all survived.
Yeah.
Little road rash later, everything was kosher. So, but no, thanks, John, for that question. Please ask more questions. We'd love to share more. We'd love to answer specific questions if there are them. Just send them in. Contact us for them on the website. So thank you on that.
Yeah. And in the last mile, this is our closing segment, allows us to reflect a little bit on the things we've talked about in this podcast. And for me, this was all about Tail of the Dragon. I I just say take it slow. Just take it slow. There's no reason to ride all the way to Tail of the Dragon just to wreck your bike, wreck your day, and have to tow yourself back home. Take it slow. Come back with all your friends. Come back with all your parts.
For me, I think the planning part. The first time we went down, I know we missed a bunch of these roads, and we certainly could have rode them. I think we went further out, went way around, came back. And I think just thinking, planning, these roads are amazing. Spending time at the Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort, there's a lot of people there to talk to. There's a lot of bikes there, like the guy that I was talking about. Like, I wanted to get his name. I want to know who he is. I wonder what the hell is he doing there? Where did he come from? Yeah. I like that. So just take your time, get the stories, and have fun. So yeah. If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.